I went bankrupt, starting a game studio. There was a kid who played games and dreamed of making his own. Year after year, he kept learning, kept pushing. One day, he sat down and started building. Finished it, published it, and made a ton of money. Sounds like a dream, right? That's exactly why thousands of people every year decide, I'm going to make my own game. But between I want to make a game and a game that earns even a penny, there's a gap most people don't see until they've already fallen into it. Let's walk this path together, from the first idea to release, step by step, and you'll understand why this is one of the hardest things you can do. Step 1. The idea. You have an idea. A brilliant one. You can see it, feel it. You know it's going to be a hit. There's one problem. In 2024, nearly 19,000 games were released on Steam. 19,000. That's 52 games a day, every day, no weekends. And 79% of them, nearly 15,000, didn't attract enough players to even escape limited status on the platform. That means literally nobody downloaded them. Nobody played them. Nobody left a single review. And that's just Steam. On mobile, it's even worse. In 2024, nearly 50 billion mobile games were downloaded. 50 billion. And 90% of all revenue goes to a few dozen top titles like Monopoly Go, Honor of Kings, and Candy Crush. Clive Harris, a veteran with 20 years of experience, puts it bluntly. Don't make a mobile game. No small indie makes money on mobile. That territory belongs entirely to mega corporations churning out faceless, free-to-play monstrosities. And then, there's the hyper-casual market. Thousands of games where you pull a pin or sort colors. They cost next to nothing to make. But there are so many of them that breaking through without $1 million ad budget is virtually impossible. Steam, mobile, hyper-casual, it's the same story everywhere. An oversaturated market where every player's attention is being torn apart. And every single one of those thousands of invisible developers also had a brilliant idea. An idea is zero. An idea without execution is worth nothing. Okay, but you're serious. You're not just dreaming, you're starting. Step 2. Choosing what to make. This is where the first fork in the road appears. Option 1. You make your dream game. Something unique. Your own vision. Something nobody's ever done before. Option 2. You look at what's already working and make something similar. Clone a successful formula. A copy, but with your own twist. Both options are a trap. With an original idea, the problem is you don't know if anyone actually wants to play it. You're building a game inside your own bubble, convinced it's genius. The developers of Call to Valkyrie, an indie RTS about Vikings, wrote in their postmortem. We went in with the attitude of, we're gamers. We know what gamers want. That turned out to be a terrible approach. We forgot to put the player experience at the center of our priorities and unintentionally alienated our audience. 5 months of development in the trash. And when they tried to rework the game and showed players the unfinished changes, people got even more confused and started unfollowing. The game's identity fell apart. With a clone, it's a different trap. After the success of FTL, a game about managing a spaceship, a wave of clones followed. Most of them failed, because they copied mechanics without understanding why they worked. You can clone Vampire Survivors or Balatro, but if you don't understand what exactly makes them addictive, your copy will just be a worse version of the original. And why would anyone play a worse version when the original costs $3? There's also a third option, publishers. You can go to a publisher and pitch your project. The publisher handles marketing, helps with promotion. But a publisher takes 50% of revenue, sometimes more. And a publisher won't take just anyone. They need to see a prototype, a demo, a pitch deck, an explanation of why your game will make money. And for that, you need experience and a product that already partially exists. Meaning, you spend time and money first and then maybe you get a contract. Or maybe you don't. Hothead Games, a studio with 18 years of experience. Dozens of games under their belt. 2 publishers were ready to sign contracts. Within 2 weeks, one backed out. Change of strategy. 2 weeks later, the other one too. Bankruptcy. 18 years. Gone in 2 phone calls. Okay, let's say you've decided. You've picked a direction. Now you need to actually make the game. Step 3. Scope. This is where most people make a fatal mistake. You want to make an RPG with an open world, or a multiplayer survival game, or a horror game with procedural generation and a non-linear story. Eric Barone, Concerned Ape, spent 4.5 years making Stardew Valley. 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, alone. Code, art, music, story. But, and this is key, he made a farming simulator. One game, one genre. He didn't try to cram PvP, an open world, and multiplayer into it all at once. Over 70% of indie developers in surveys name scope too large as the main reason their projects failed. You start with a simple platformer, and a year later, you've got an RPG with a crafting system, a skill tree, and an open world. It's called scope creep, and it kills projects more reliably than any bug. Okay, let's say you're smart. You chose a small scope, clear idea, clear genre. Now you need to build it. Step 4. Development. You need code, art, sound, music, UI, level design, testing. If you're working alone, you need to be a programmer, artist, composer, designer, and tester all at once. But here's the problem. Nobody talks about it at the start. Knowing how to code doesn't mean knowing how to make games. Knowing how to draw doesn't mean knowing how to create game art. And most importantly, knowing how to play games doesn't mean knowing how to design them. Game design is a separate profession. It's understanding why a player presses the button one more time, why one level hooks you and another frustrates you, why one progression system feels like a reward and another feels like a chore. Without that understanding, you can build a technically functional game that's simply not interesting. Or worse, a game that seems interesting to you, but to nobody else. One developer wrote, "Within the first 10 minutes of the game, I could see design problems the developers themselves hadn't noticed after months of work." And that's not rare. When you're deep inside your own project, you stop seeing it through the player's eyes. And if you're hiring a team, there's another problem. Inexperienced developers. A student who knows Unity, but has never optimized code for a real project. An artist who draws beautifully, but doesn't understand engine limitations. A freelancer who promises everything and misses every deadline. With an inexperienced team, everything takes twice as long and costs 3 times as much. And the result is a pile of bugs. On configurations, nobody tested. On platforms, nobody checked. One enthusiast wrote, "You need to be capable of building the entire game by yourself, even if you have a team. If you can't, stop and acquire those skills. Warning, it may take 5 to 10 years. 5 to 10 years. Just to learn. And while you're learning, you need money." Barone lived with his parents at first, then with his girlfriend Amber, who worked 2 jobs. He worked part-time as a movie theater usher. Guillaume Boucher-Vidal, founder of an indie studio, went from $20,000 in savings to $35,000 in debt over 3 years. 3 years without a salary, 2 failed Kickstarter campaigns. If you have a team, you need money. A programmer costs money. An artist costs money. Even a freelancer for assets costs money. A simple 2D game, starting at $10,000. A mid-range 3D game, $100,000 to $500,000. And that's just development. No marketing. No localization. No unexpected expenses. And there will be unexpected expenses. Experienced developers recommend setting aside 30% of the budget for contingencies. The engine updates and breaks half your code. The artist disappears. The freelancer misses the deadline. Hello Games had their office flooded on Christmas Eve, destroyed all their equipment. And the entire time, you're not earning a single cent from this game. 0. Only spending. Okay, but you made it. You built the game, it works. It's even good. Now comes the hardest part. Step 5. Marketing. This is where most games die. The game will speak for itself. No, it won't. Because nobody knows it exists. In 2025, 20,000 games were released on Steam. 52 a day. Yours is one of 52. Today, tomorrow, another 52. Experienced developers say 20 to 50% of your budget should go to marketing. What does marketing include? A trailer. A capsule image for Steam. What people see when scrolling the store. A Steam page that needs to go live months before release. A Discord server. A devlog. Working with influencers. And you need to send them free keys, with no guarantee they'll even respond. Participating in festivals like Steam Next Fest, where you can showcase a demo. Wish lists. The number of people who added your game to their wishlist are Steam's currency. The platform's algorithm promotes games with high wishlist counts. If yours are low, nobody will see you, even if the game is a masterpiece. Notch spent years building a community on forums. He posted an early demo, listened to feedback. When Minecraft launched, he already had thousands of people waiting. Barone ran a subreddit and a website for years, shared his progress. When Steam had doubts, the community was already there. And then there's Highguard, a game from the people who created Call of Duty and Apex Legends. 20 years of experience, a free-to-play game. Their strategy? Announce at the Game Awards, the biggest ceremony in gaming, and then go silent for 6 weeks. Forbes, MIA, Reddit. Does this game even exist? 5,000 negative reviews on day 1, 82%. Not because the game was bad, but because nobody understood what the game was. If a studio full of industry veterans couldn't break through without marketing, what chance do you have without it? Okay, let's say you did that too. Marketing, wish lists, trailer, community. Launch day arrives. Step 6, release. Most sales happen in the first 2 weeks. That's your window. If you don't hit in those 2 weeks, there may not be a second chance. And timing decides everything. Titanfall 2, a shooter from the people who created Call of Duty. 9s across the board from critics. One of the best campaigns in the history of the genre. EA released the game between their own Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty, Infinite Warfare. A week apart in each direction. Battlefield, 15 million copies. Titanfall, 4 million. A suicidal release window. Indie developer Chris Shrigley released his game the same week as Red Dead Redemption 2 and the Steam Halloween sale. Complete indifference. But even if your timing is perfect, there's the platform. Steam takes 30% of every sale. Consoles, also 30. The App Store, 30. If you sold your game for $20, you got 14, minus taxes on top of that. And if you have a publisher, they take their cut, 50% of what's left. $20 from the player. You get maybe 5, maybe 3. Now do the math. At $5 net, you need 20,000 copies just to recoup 100,000 in costs. No profit. Konstantin Bachioiu, 7 years in the industry, went indie. I needed to sell 700 copies to survive. I didn't even come close. Daniel West released Airscape on Steam with marketing support. Sold fewer than 150 copies, across all platforms combined. I've never heard of a game on Steam that sold worse. Okay, but imagine. You hit. Sales are there. Players are there. Reviews are positive. You think, that's it, we're done. No. Step 7. After release. Bugs. There will be more of them than you expect. On configurations you didn't know existed. On operating systems you never tested. Players hate bugs. One critical bug, and negative reviews start pouring in instantly. And on Steam, negative reviews mean death. The algorithm pushes you down. New players see mixed reviews and scroll right past. Players want new content, immediately. Patches, balancing, new levels, DLC. Post-launch support is another 10 to 20% of the budget, which you probably didn't plan for. Release isn't the finish line. It's the start of the second race. Sean Murray from Hello Games knows this better than anyone. No Man's Sky launched in 2016. Disaster. Half the promised features were missing. Death threats. Scotland Yard. But Murray didn't give up and didn't disappear. He went silent. Sat down and worked. 5 years of free updates. At GDC he said, "What you do is more important than what you say." No Man's Sky is the symbol of the greatest comeback in the industry. But Murray could afford it, because 212,000 people bought the game on day 1. He had the money to keep working for 5 more years. Most people don't. And after all of this, after the idea, choosing a direction, development, marketing, release, patches, stress, sleepless nights, and an empty bank account. 8% of the most successful games take 80% of all the revenue. 80%. And the rest is split the crumbs. That's why starting a game studio is one of the hardest things you can do. So, give up? No. And here's why. In 2025, indie games earned $4.5 billion on Steam, a quarter of the platform's total revenue. Not Sony, not Microsoft. Small teams. Schedule 1, 151 million. REPO, 147. Peak, 87. VG Insights. A studio's second game sells 40% better than the first. The third, another 24% better than the second. Palworld, Baldur's Gate 3. Lethal Company, V Rising. Not a single hit was the studio's first game. Not one. Every release isn't a lottery. It's a skill that grows. Stardew Valley. 1 person. 4.5 years. 41 million copies. Minecraft. Evenings after work. 350 million copies. No Man's Sky. 4 people. An office that flooded on Christmas Eve. 5 years of updates after a disastrous launch. The greatest comeback. Playground Games. 3 people from a small English town. 5 Forza Horizon games. 5 hits. Not a single flop. 13 years. GSC Game World. Developing Stalker 2 under bombs. Team members dying on the front lines. 1 million downloads in 48 hours. What do they all have in common? Small scope at the start. Barone didn't make an MMO. Notch started with a primitive prototype. Murray began with a small arcade game called Joe Danger to financially stabilize the studio. Only then, No Man's Sky. Marketing from day one. Notch built a community for years. Barone ran a subreddit long before release. Highguard went silent and paid the price. And most importantly, they didn't give up. Yes, this path is long, difficult, expensive, and not guaranteed. But it exists, and someone walks it. Every year. Work smart. Keep going. Don't give up on the dream. Make a small game, finish it, release it, learn, make the next one. And maybe, one day, it'll be you. If you like this, subscribe. I do breakdowns like this every week. Drop a comment. What game do you dream of making? Or are you already working on one? See you soon.